Welcome to this edition of Peak Performers Podcast with your host, Thor Conklin. Thor will be sharing the necessary tools, strategies, and psychology you'll need to become a peak performer in any area of your life or business.
Welcome back to another episode of Peak Performers Podcast. I'm your host, Thor Conklin, and we have an amazing guest from California with us today. He's the president and CEO of SATA Systems, Tony Safoian. Tony joins us. He is a 10-time recipient of the Inc. 5000 Award. I don't think I've ever had somebody on that won it 10 times. Are we going to go for 11 as well?
We're going to keep going.
Awesome. We'll have to have you back on as a follow-up 11 times. Show everybody that's only made it 5 or 6 what it takes to get to 10 and 11. SATA Systems is a world-leading technology and consulting firm for cloud servicing firms. You know, for those that have been living under a rock, give us a little bit of background of what cloud computing and servicing is all about.
I'll be very glad to do that. So, the definition of cloud has been around for quite some time. It continues to evolve in terms of what it means. But at the very fundamental level, it's really this concept of, all of our systems, software, processes that used to run in a data center somewhere, whether that was in our own closet, if we're a small company, or outsourced to some co-location, that can now live in one of the many public cloud providers in the world at such a hyper scale and high availability and functionality that we just can't match doing that on our own anymore. So Google, Amazon, Microsoft, they spend $10 billion a year each building that kind of capacity and capability with just an amazing set of scalable services and other functions that there's a lot to be said for organizations moving those workloads to those organizations to host and house versus doing that on their own.
And what's the biggest problem that you see with clients that start to make this transition? Where's the pain points here?
With regards to pain point, I think in the beginning there was a lot of concern around security. People were just not comfortable with letting go of the machines they could touch and feel. There were concern about some of the features and functionality for a long time, up until relatively recently. There's things you could do with your own servers that you control that you couldn't do with servers hosted by Microsoft or Google. And over time, we've seen both of those sort of gaps collapse. There's very little case to be made today that anybody can do security better than the big providers can. They've just taken it to a whole other level, which is really important. Security is paramount to everything that we do. But also functionally, they've really narrowed the gap. There's almost nothing that you can't do in the public cloud realm, but those were the sort of technical barriers of the past.
Got it. I'm a baby boomer. I just made the requirement of getting into the baby boom area. And I'm getting some feedback here for some reason. All right, hopefully that'll go away. All right, now it's gone. Excellent. All right. One of the baby boomers, and it was funny because I went out on a date the other night, and we were talking about some of her parents are somewhere vacationing, and she said, I need to write some bills, and they had a checkbook. And she turns to me and she goes, you don't have a checkbook, do you? Like, no, I don't even know what a checkbook is. I say that as you're working with the C-level executives in some of these organizations, some of them are baby boomers. What do you find when you're dealing with, not the 28-year-old CMO, and you're dealing with a higher generation, an older generation? What strategies do you employ? Because there's a lot of people listening to this show that have a multitude of age ranges that they're working with. What do they need to know when they're working with the older C-level execs?
I think you have to tug in a couple of areas. One of the areas is just, create so much data and evidence to support why path A is better than the old paradigm. And that has to do with cost, additional competitive advantage, speed to market, just sort of things that they have a fiduciary responsibility to address as executives. And usually we're able to get over those barriers. Then the second stuff is really kind of the soft elements, which in my opinion, are actually maybe even more fundamentally important to long-term success in cloud, is the level of adoption, change management, cultural acceptance, strategic changes and differences in terms of the type of talent we hire and nurture to be successful in that paradigm, that seems to be more the longer term work. And today, most of the projects that we do, whether it's email collaboration or if it's data center migration, lift and shift, or application rationalization, it's sort of addressing the need that, these organizations need a different kind of way of thinking about what IT does and the kind of people that it employs. So it's multifaceted in nature, but I think the first part, which is the technical checkboxes and things of that nature, if they're unfamiliar, that's pretty straightforward to get over. The other work is, I think, takes longer to get through.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly on the cutting edge. I was reading through your website, and you give unlimited PTO. As soon as I heard that, I just took a gasp. One, as I wanted to make sure nobody on my team actually saw that. I guess they'll know now after they listen to this show. But, man, that takes some balls to do that. I mean, that's, what got you to that point?
Actually, the first sort of inkling I got about that was I was reading this deck that Netflix had released publicly about their culture, and of course have a lot of respect for that organization in terms of their thinking. And at the root of it, we have unlimited PTO, but we also feed our people every day. We have all these sort of benefits. We emphasize culture. At the core of it is it's really about creating an environment that is very attractive for us to be able to obtain, grow, and nurture the top talent in the world, especially top engineering talent, but also top sales talent, marketing talent. It's a very competitive environment out there. So we saw that as an attractive feature of our benefit package, but also, I think, culturally emblematic of trust. Like, we trust our employees to be responsible with the benefits they have and the freedom and latitude they have in terms of how they prioritize their day and what they focus on and how hard they work and when. So I think it really checks the boxes in both areas.
And what have you learned as a result of it? As I'm sure somebody somewhere along the line has taken advantage of it. Do you give any sort of guidelines so people know, okay, look, we're thinking that if you're at this level, you probably should be somewhere around 4 weeks. But again, it's unlimited. Do you give them any sort of boundaries or guardrails?
We do require consideration when you want to take more than 2 weeks off at a time. And we have given people 4-week blocks off. People that want to, visit their home country for 4 weeks and that kind of thing. And it's really far away and it's part of what they do. So we give guidelines around an extended ask that's sort of back to back. But other than that, it's really rooted in get your manager's approval. Unlimited PTO doesn't mean you don't have to ask permission.
Okay,
and plan.
Got it. You got there's somebody there that's watching.
Yeah.
We got
your manager obviously has to approve, but at the root of it, we just can't have customer work suffer or productivity suffer or their P&Ls that they're managing suffer. And we expect people to be responsible and their managers to also process those things responsibly as well.
Okay, I guess that makes a little bit more sense to me. I'm feeling better right now.
It's not like submit.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, see you.
I'm going to see you later. Hey, we were talking a little bit before we started the interview about the backstory that your dad originally started the company. You joined very quickly thereafter. Give us a little background. And then I'd love to understand, what were some of the hurdles? Because we have a lot of people listening are involved in family businesses. Some work really well. Some don't work really well. What were some of the challenges? What did you find?
It's funny. I spent a lot of time over the last year speaking to some YPO mentors, and there's a family business network to really gain a little more of intelligence about other people's experiences, which are actually even more complex because they're larger. They have more family members involved. They're multi-generational. But it's an important question. But I'm very grateful that I got to do this in terms of building this now 18-year-old company with my folks. My mother's graphic design company, which was actually around as a sole proprietorship even before SADA was founded in the year 2000. That was something she did. My father started SADA with 3 other partners in the year 2000. I joined shortly after. I was kind of helping both companies. So what happened in 2003, the other partners went away, the 2 companies merged, and I became the president and CEO of SADA as it currently is. And, that was very fortunate. If they weren't having these entrepreneurial ambitions, and after the .com I was working for hadn't imploded, all these stars had to align for this to happen. But there's just been a lot of evolution of the company. We've been growing 30% a year for decades straight. So 10 years ago, we were like a $2 million company with 15 employees. But even back then, as a family, we had this ambition to have, the heart and soul of a family business, but be very deliberate about not letting that hinder the experience of our customers, the experience of our employees, our full potential. And it's easier for us because it's just literally, I'm the only child, there's 3 of us. But it doesn't mean that we don't regularly run into these gaps in generational thinking or generational perspective or opinion. But I have to say, over the years, we've gotten really good about professionalizing in those key areas. And I think this year, more than others, is when we've completely focused on bringing in outside executives into the organization. We just had a chief operating officer brought on board, and our then COO stepped to a focused CFO role, which was actually what my mom was doing. And we're bringing on an outside CTO this year, and we've already hired, and this gentleman starts in July, and he's a chief legal officer. So just creating that executive layer that's beyond and above and beyond just family is going to be really important for us to go from $100 million to $300 million. We know we need to do that. My parents are accepting of that. But it took a long time for us to all get there, and it's really about that level of open, transparent communication and doing what's best for the business, as opposed to sticking to our, emotions around some of these things.
Yeah. Now, does the family still own 100% of the company?
We do.
Yeah. And you did all of this with zero financing, which I think is amazing.
Yeah. I mean, to caveat that, we have an employee pool, that we set aside for appreciation rights. I think that's really important. Yeah. For competitive and other reasons, we also we're sharing in our family culture. We want to participate, want people to be able to participate in the success of the company over time. But we did do it without funding, and that was a big deal in early 2000s. I remember at some point, I think my parents did have to go get an equity line on their house for some short period of time. But I think our business model and some of our great strategic execution and decisions have put us in a position where we're been able to fund our growth organically, and I think that's pretty remarkable for getting to our size.
Yeah, it really is, and it gives you the freedom to do what you want to do, how you want to do it. And I see so many organizations where in the beginning, they sold off such a big chunk of their equity to raise the capital, and now they feel like the investors and the business kind of own them, and they're just kind of along to to guide the ship as opposed to really just lead it. So
yeah, we're fiercely independent in our nature, meaning we like to move fast. We have a good sense of what the right things are that we want to execute, and we just want to go do it. And I think staying independent has been somewhat of a competitive advantage, frankly, from that standpoint. We can just move quicker than most. But it's a little easier in a services company to self-fund than it is in a product company, certainly. But still, there's services companies in our peer group who've gone outside for funding earlier than we had to, and I think it's somewhat of an advantage for us.
No question. In 2015, you were a runner-up for the E&Y Entrepreneur of the Year award. Dude, that's a major award. Where's your superpower? What's going on here?
I don't know, runner-up and not a winner. It was like making it to the
look. That's like saying, look, I was in the Olympics. I didn't take gold, but I got there.
I don't know. I guess there's a reason I didn't win as well. And so I think it was funny. I remember those interviews. I was, working to articulate what we did and how we did it in cloud. And it was, the judges are generally of the generation that you described, maybe even a little older. And it was, I felt like I had a hard time getting across the value proposition of why SADA exists and why we're successful. But, I think as far as, and there was a regional award, right? So as far as Southern California-based sort of IT companies and family businesses, that kind of thing, I think, we got to a certain size and scale that allowed us to stand out.
Yeah.
And I think also our relationship and in terms of how we go to market with who we partner with, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, I think those are important and interesting to people. So I think it was a combination of those things. And of course, cloud. We sort of got cloud very early. And when it became more of a mainstream thing, I think people were like, who are these SATA guys? And what's this cloud thing that they do? And why are they so far ahead of everyone else?
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you were early to market with it.
Yeah. I was really fortunate.
So do you secretly wish that the group or the guy or the woman that you lost to becomes, a billionaire? So you can say, look, hey, I lost to Zuckerberg. It was a tough competition, but.
Yes, exactly. The guy or gal you get beat at in the playoffs in the first round, you want them to take the championship, right?
Absolutely. So you can just say, hey, I was second, but it was close. It was tough competition that year.
Exactly.
What's some of the secrets to success? Because look, I mean, you don't start bootstrapping an organization. First of all, get into 2 million. People don't realize how tough it is to even get to 2 million. But to get from 2 to 100, it's a totally different game. What's gotten you to 2 is not going to get you to 100. The people sometimes that got you to 2 aren't going to get you to 100. It's a massively different company. It's not just more sales. It's a totally different beast. What did you learn along the way?
So many layers to that question.
And everyone listening wants to know all of them. So, I mean, you can skip all around. I don't care. This is why they're listening. People want to know how to scale. They want to know how to scale intelligently. There are a ton of landmines that were in the way that I'm sure some you tripped over and you blew up, but the major ones you missed and you got to this place. So share whatever on your mind.
At the very fundamental level, let's just talk about, what drives a business in terms of its growth to begin with. And I think it's, and before we stumbled upon this cloud thing, I mean, between 2000 and 2006, we did have one sort of breakout success. It was this concept now everybody calls managed services, but that was kind of the cusp of transforming something that was traditionally done in an archaic way, which is like this break-fix model where we went and fixed computers when they broke, and that's the only time we got to bill, and it's the only time we got to make money, and it just didn't make sense because we had to hope that a customer is suffering for us to make money. So we kind of tilted that into a recurring revenue model, which is proactive in nature. It fulfills the customer needs to have uptime, and when they were happy, we were happy. So that alignment was really interesting. But prior to that, I mean, we were kind of trying all sorts of things. And we hit upon something that was going to be a very unique value proposition in the market that was transformational, for which there will be lots of demand in an environment where there just wasn't a lot of competition. So to have that kind of growth, I think you have to be able to see something in the market that others don't see, and be able to, at that moment, decide if you're all in or not. For us, that one was 2006, 2007, when we stumbled upon the Google relationship, and they were going to market with the cloud offering around email, which they called Google Apps for your domain at the time. We knew we were all in. We were not too successful in other areas that it prevented us from cannibalizing that work. We were not, quote unquote, fat and happy. We were eager to participate in what we knew was the next 10 or 20-year paradigm shift in technology. So being all in, super important. And then it's really, regardless of how successful we got and how much success we had in certain areas and growth we had in certain areas, it was very important for us to stay clear and humble and open to the next set of challenges over that next hill. And I think that was another fundamental decision when we got to like $5 or $6 million. We had to make that choice of, is this going to be a lifestyle business for us? Are we going to minimize costs, minimize investment, and just coast because we're comfortable, we're making good money? or are we really going to go for it? Meaning leverage the opportunity that the market and the stars and all that have sort of laid in front of us. And are we ready to sacrifice a lot of other things to make this as big as it can be? And that's another decision. I think a lot of entrepreneurs, and for very good reasons, stop around that mark, $3 to $5 million, lifestyle, regional players. And I think it's sort of the red pill, blue pill moment. And for me, being, really young and eager and in it for much more than the money, I think that decision was very clear. And then you do get into this realm of, well, you need structure, you need process, you need the kind of talent you don't currently have. You need to be able to see the next paradigm shift within this larger paradigm, like where's the puck going next, and be very determined to get ahead of that. Just culturally, we've never been great at being a fast follower. Like, we can't come in 3 years later after there's a new paradigm or new trend or a new offering. And so we're very deliberate in that. And we were also very deliberate in going to market with our partners, essentially kind of riding the coattails of what the Google and Microsoft and now Facebook, like, what are they signaling in the market, and how can we add value to them and to our customers in their big ambitions? And we know we can't invest $10 billion a year in data center technology, but we can ride the coattails of that growth and being amongst the best in the world at helping customers get there. So we're riding standing on the shoulders of giants from that standpoint. And we knew that this market had unlimited demand. We knew that this is the fastest growing part of what was happening in technology. And just this deliberate intent to be as valuable to our partners as we can, and to be as accretive to our customers as we can, and just keep doing that day after day without any sort of sense of mission accomplished.
Got it. I love that. I think this is a great recipe for anybody. Figure out what that opportunity is, seize on that, go all in. Don't just dabble. Dabblers do not win. I talk about this all the time. Choose a niche. Niche and rich rhyme for a reason. Make sure and you're all in. Pick something. Don't try to dabble in a whole bunch of different areas. I see all the time that comfort kills. They get into that zone where they're making some money. They just turn into lifestyle. And here's the thing with businesses, as you know, you're either growing or you're dying. There is no static. There is no hanging out just in the little comfy zone, because someone is out there trying to kill it like you were, and you'll get eaten up one day. Right. I love it that you weren't just in it for the money. There was a bigger reason. I love the fact that you were in a business that you had to wish something poor happened to your clients in order for you to get business. I mean, who wants to be in that position? Figure out, even though you've gotten ahead of the puck right now, the puck is going to be moving again. Make sure that you get out ahead of it. Don't chase it. And then, just like in stocks and investments, find out what the big people are doing and then follow suit. Get on the shoulders of the giants. If Microsoft and Google and Amazon are moving down a particular lane, chances are there's an opportunity there. So love that. I mean, that's some great takeaways. If you got a pen in your hand, make some notes. One of the things that I see quite often, and what's interesting when you were saying this, I was just thinking about our business as well. And, initially we do executive coaching and profitability consulting, and we really thought that the lane was going to be people that were kind of stuck, were frustrated. And you see this a lot of times in EO and YPO. It's just, there's just something that's not working. And then what we found, was the opposite. The people that were attracted to us were doing great, and they just wanted to figure out how to hone their game and get to the next level. And I liked how you said, you're in a business and all of a sudden you were looking around for opportunity and and it came in the way of a cloud. When you're looking for that opportunity, so many times people miss it, right? Because it's like, what business are you in? I'm in this business. This is what I do. Others are constantly looking around. It's like, oh, look at that. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. How do you decipher the opportunity from the multitude of opportunities that come your way?
It's a double-edged sword, for sure. There's, especially when you're growing and you're successful at some things, too many other opportunities tend to present themselves.
And they're always there.
Yes.
They're always good.
Lots of shiny objects. You get lots of phone calls. Hey, sell our stuff too, or don't you want to become great at that? And I think it's a very tough balancing act to both grasp the next opportunity, but do it in a way that it's complementary to the things you're already excellent at. That it's not too far outside your lane. That is not going to cause you to shift focus. I actually gave a keynote at Channel Partners a few weeks ago, and it was about how to invest and where. And when you do see those complementary opportunities, and this has happened over and over for us, you know, I'll use Google example. In the beginning, we're doing some Google search and then, you know, Google Apps, and that's all we were doing. But we knew that Google was doing other things in cloud, and we made a decision, just like we had with Microsoft, to be full stack. Like, we wanted to be the Google partner for our customers and the Microsoft partner. So we were knocking down the doors wanting to take other things to market. I'll use Google Maps as an example. When we're dabbling in attaching Google Maps to our capabilities, it didn't quite work because we were kind of not distracted, but successful in one set of products. We had one set of people to do that. And until we made the deliberate decision to invest specifically in dedicated people in Maps, they were going to be specialized in incubating and launching this practice. Like, it didn't take off at all. But the moment we did that, it became the next massive opportunity. And so it was complementary because it was Google. It actually increased our profile with our partner because we were doing more, but it also required a dedicated team within that group, the Google group, to make that happen. And that makes sense. But if somebody says, you know, hey, you guys should become now, let's say, what's a good example? I don't know, hey, hybrid is a big thing. Like hybrid data center, there's a big market in this, or some kind of on-premise related networking technology is doing great. You know, we think about what we are at the core. At the core, we're big believers in public cloud. And so, you know, voice in the cloud makes sense. You know, Skype with Microsoft. We didn't want to be the voice telco guys that did the traditional voice things, but the moment voice became cloud, which we saw as our realm, we knew that was an investment we had to make. You know, the complementary aspect is really important. Like, it has to resonate with your core values, your core capabilities, core skills. But if it's slightly specialized, you can do that if you invest in the right way. But it has to be bigger. It has to be part of your bigger strategy and your bigger playbook.
You got to go all in.
Got to go all in.
Love it.
The moment you know it's the thing, you have to go all in.
Yeah. I'm training for a Ironman coming up this year, and I had never done one. I finished my my half Ironman. Matter of fact, I think I had my shirt on. Yep, there it is. Got my
nice.
my half Ironman shirt on. And when I did it, first thing I did is I put it on social media. It was 15 months before I actually was going to run the race. I was like, here's what I did. I signed up. Now I'm going to make it public. I'm all in. There's no backing out at this point. You know, we teach execution. That's our business. We help people execute on their plans.
It's part of your brand. You have to do
right,
it.
Exactly. I mean, I can't. I mean, I have to, you know, you have to drag me off the course. I have to have a broken leg or something for me not to finish. I've got to have a really good excuse. So execution, I want to dive into that a little bit. But the point there is, you know, when you go all in, you got to. In order to make something happen, go all in. Let the world know what you're doing.
But beware of shiny objects, because there's lots.
Oh, absolutely. No question. No question. They'll distract you along the way every day. Execution. You obviously are a master at execution. When it comes down to it, you know, knowledge is important, but knowledge is not power. It's the ability to execute on something that actually gets it done. What's your secret to execution?
I think it starts with a philosophy, and that philosophy is absolute dedication to customer success. And if you have that as the end goal all the time, it causes you to make a lot of decisions around various aspects of the business. Most importantly, who you hire both in terms of skill set, capability, but most importantly, culture fit. Like everyone here has to be obsessed with customer success. And then if you have that kind of orientation and, you know, you treat people well and they're excited and they're happy. Somebody said, if your employees aren't happy, your customers never will be. So I think that's super important. And then beyond that, you do have to create some systems, processes, being data-driven in terms of how you measure your success and execution, how you track workflow, processes, things of that nature to really kind of get the tactical things right. But the reality is you cannot write a manual for every process that you foresee being needed in your execution journey. So that all has to be covered by hiring the right people with the right attitude, with the right cultural orientation towards, you know, one of our core values is called make them rave, towards making our customers rave. And that translates to internal customers making each other rave when somebody asks you for something within SADA that's in a different group, or our partners. You know, how do we make our partners wildly successful? How do we make our customers wildly successful? How do we make each other super successful? And I think the rest kind of takes care of itself. And yes, you do need more processes and more formality and more systems as you grow. But I think the most successful companies in terms of how they execute just have a certain orientation in their people that is driven towards a singular goal. And that to us is success for our customers. And the rest tends to take care of itself.
Yeah. And see, now this makes a whole bunch much more sense to me. When your center is dedicated to customer success, that tells me that you're hiring the people that you can give unlimited PTO to, because you're hiring the right people.
Yes.
I love it. Tony, man, we could keep going on for hours and hours, but our time is quickly coming to a close. So for all those business owners out there that are listening today that have been considering moving to the cloud, have some cloud needs, how do they get a hold of you?
On our website, www.sadasystems.com. That's SADA-systems.com. We're also, of course, on all the social channels, which I think we'll share with this podcast. At sadasystems.com is our Twitter. And we'll be happy to chat with you. And if you want to talk about that or anything that I've shared with you on this podcast, I love to share with my peers and get to know all you guys better as well along the way.
Man, you are a heck of an executive and somebody that knows how to grow a business. I can't wait till you get, 2 or 3 times. I think that's shooting a little low. I see a B in your future. So,
wow. You're the third person to have ever said that independently to me in the last 2 years. I'm starting to believe that $1 billion is possible.
Oh, no question. No question. Because I'll tell you, this has been my experience in looking at these things for decades. The hardest move, it's hard in the beginning, right? You got to get going.
Yes.
Getting to 100 is really, really difficult. Now, I don't want to say that it gets easier after 100, but the things that you have in place to get to 100 are going to help you get to the billion. There's not a ton of change that need to occur in order for you to go from where you are up to that number. And you're in an industry that can take you there. I talk about this all the time. People say, what's the secret to, your most successful client's success? And of course, going all in, being singularly focused, knowing how to say no. I mean, they're just obsessed with becoming X. You've got to be in an industry that can take you there. If you're selling ice cream cones out of a corner store, chances are we're not going to have a crazy profitable account unless it's Carvel or Haagen-Dazs or something like that. It takes a lot of ice cream cones to get there. You're in a great lane where you are. That's going to continue to grow. That's where the industry's where the world.
Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, says that our collective addressable market is $4.5 trillion. So I guess $1 billion is just a small part of that.
Yeah, I mean, if you want more, you're going to have to ask for more. But I look forward to having you back on the show as a member of the 3 Comma Club.
Oh wow! Well, from your mouth to God's ears.
Hey, look, I'm the profitability executive coaching guy, so when I say it, it happens.
I love it. Thank you, Thor. I'll hold you to that.
You're young. You're surrounding yourself with the right people in YPO. You're out in Los Angeles. You're in the right lane, and for you to take it up to 100 million, man, you've got what it takes.
I appreciate that. Great to hear that from you.
Go kick some butt, man.
And thanks for the opportunity to be on the show.
Oh, my pleasure.
Take care.